Hi guys! In today's video, I thought it would be really fun to show you 10 easy no glue, no borax slimes that I've come across over the years and show you my favourite recipes. These are going to be past clips, so if you've watched my no borax slime videos before, this might not be new to you, but I thought I'd show you my favourite ones in case you wanted to try some of them. So for the first method, we're going to need a peel off face mask, and I know this is a really common thing, so I've tried to use some really unique products just to make it a bit more interesting, and there's going to be no shaving foam in this method. So we're going to use our peel off face mask to start off with and just empty a bunch of packs. I think I used about 8 in total. They're really small. And then I added 1 teaspoon of foaming facial wash. The one I used was clean and clear, but I'm pretty sure anyone will work, and this will just help to thicken up the mix and make it a really thick slime. Then to make it fluffy, we're going to use some shaving gel, and I used Gillette, and I was so surprised at how fluffy this made my mix. I heard that it would make it fluffy, but I wasn't really sure because I've never used it in this way, and it was just amazing. It kind of turned even fluffier than it would if I used the shaving foam. And as you can see here, the slime kind of started to pull away, and I googled it, and apparently with clear slimes, shaving foam actually works as an activator. So I added a tiny bit more and it did pull away, but not that much. So I thought maybe I didn't add enough face mask, and I went back in with a couple of packets, and I think I added about 3 more, and this just made the mixture a bit thicker. It did activate a bit, but not fully. So I decided to go in with Kershaw's laundry starch for an activator, and I did 2 teaspoons of this, and then I added some cold water. You can add hot, but personally I just like to add cold. And then you just stir it up, and you can't let this one sit, otherwise it all sinks to the bottom, so you have to do it quite quickly. And I just add this in little by little, and it activates very quickly. As you can see here, it kind of becomes hard, but the more you stir it, it just becomes a bit more sticky and more slime-like. When the slime becomes difficult to stir, I just go in with my hands and start playing with it, and normally at first it's quite tough, but then the more you play with it, the softer it becomes, and obviously the heat of your hands warms everything up and kind of melts the slime a bit, so it becomes super fluffy and super stretchy like this. I found that the slime didn't deflate at all. It literally kept its shape for so long. It was so soft and so stretchy, and I just absolutely love this method. Method 2 is one of my favourites, and this is a lot thicker than the previous method. It's super buttery as well. It kind of feels like a butter slime. So if you don't have access to Daiso clay, this might be the one for you. The slime normally comes out of the package quite tough, so we need to do some things to soften it up. And my favourite things to do is first of all add lotion. This is always the necessary thing, but I think that foaming hand wash is also really great. If you don't have access to foaming hand wash, warm water will work in the same way, but obviously won't give it a different texture. And the lotion just softens up the mix and makes it a lot easier to handle. At first, when you mix this in, the slime will start to break up, and this is completely normal. You just need to keep kneading it in and not add any more ingredients. If it continues to be hard after maybe 5 minutes of kneading it in, then go ahead and add some more lotion. The clay should be really soft at this point and should be really easy to poke and kind of mold around. Once it gets to this stage, we can go ahead and start adding some shaving foam, and this is the classic thing to add to slime to make it super fluffy, and the one I use is from Gillette, and I just went ahead and added loads. This not only helps to make the slime fluffy, it also makes it a lot softer, so that's why it's important not to add too much lotion before so the slime stays thick, and after playing with it for a while it should end up like this. Last but not least, we have method 3, and this is just a mix of the 2 previous slimes just to see the outcome, and at first it was disastrous and it ripped apart, so I added loads of lotions and waited to see what happened. The 2 textures mixed together really well, and it ended up just like a normal slime. First slime I'm going to be testing is lip gloss slime. This was actually recommended to me by one of my subscribers who wanted me to test out some Korean makeup and make it into slime. I couldn't find any Korean websites that could quickly ship to the UK though, so I decided to pick up the 6-pack of peel-off lip glosses of Amazon, and these don't contain any polyvinyl alcohol even though they're peel-off, which I thought was so cool. The products are intended as a lip stain, so if you don't want to get your hands messy, I recommend using gloves if you do this method. The activator I decided to pair with these lip glosses is actually Airwick 6-in-1, just because I know this works really well with normal slime and also things that I use to substitute slime. So I thought this would be great for this method, and it worked really well. It did the normal thing of becoming quite hard, and then the more you stir it, the stickier it becomes. So you just need to keep adding your Airwick and then stirring it in. But as you can see, it's quite messy on the bowl. So in between stirring, I just kept scraping it off to make sure I wasn't losing any product. On my final few goes, I was getting really impatient, so I added loads of Airwicks at once, and it made such a nice slime. It wasn't sticky at all, but it did stain my fingers, so I do recommend wearing gloves if you try this method. The next method, I'm testing out some popular edible slime recipes, and I really hope that you enjoy this video. For method 1, we're going to need some Starbursts, and I decided to use all of the red ones just so it had a matching colour, and I popped it in the microwave for 15 seconds before getting some icing sugar. And you want to add this really gradually because you do not want this to have a dough texture, you really want it to be a slime. And I did add this when it was hot, but before going in and touching it with your hands, you need to leave it for at least an hour to cool down because sugar can stick to your hands and really burn you. And when it's cooled down like this, it may be a bit hard, so you may want to add some oil or some water just to loosen the mixture up, but you just want to keep adding some icing sugar until it isn't sticky anymore and it makes a really nice stretchy slime. Slime that really surprised me and was so stretchy even when it cooled down. And this is made out of Haribo gummy bears, and I just added a whole pack of this, and this really didn't take a long time to melt. I think it was about 10 to 15 seconds in the microwave on top heat. The mixture was so sticky, so I went ahead and added a whole tablespoon of icing sugar to start off with. And the mixture kind of looked like caramel. It was so sticky and it was just such a nice texture, and it wasn't an ugly colour either, which I was really surprised with because all of the colours were mixed together. So I just kept adding my icing sugar really gradually, and eventually it was losing its stick a bit. I was really worried that when I started playing with it, it would become like a dough, so I started adding it gradually with my hands and playing with it, and it became such a nice texture and was so stretchy. For the first slime, we're going to be making oobleck, and this is the strangest and coolest slime I've ever played with. There are two main ingredients, and these are cornstarch and water. I use 3 tubs of cornstarch and half a bowl of water. Then what you want to do is just pull the cornstarch up from the bottom and try and get it to dissolve. And the first tub normally dissolves fully, but then with the second one it's a bit harder. So what I recommend doing is pushing the cornstarch under and then just swirling it around in the bowl. And after you've done that, you want to go with your hands and just break up all of the big lumps. This is going to make the mixture so smooth, and it's also going to help thicken it up. When I added my last tub, this was so hard to mix in, so I went in straight with my hands and I just started breaking it up immediately. And this is when the mixture starts turning into a slime and it becomes so thick. It's so cool. So basically, if you hit it hard or you apply any pressure to it, then it's a solid. But if you just relax your hands or don't put any pressure on it, then it becomes a liquid. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this is literally the coolest slime I've ever played with. And what I found super cool is when I took my hand out of the slime, it turned from the red colour on the right to a really shiny orange colour on the left. Next up we have blue tack slime, and I'm not going to be using the same method as I used before because you guys told me that foaming hand wash works way better with it than moisturizer does. So I started to add my foaming hand wash on top of the blue tack and I started to knead it in. And I noticed that when it went all stringy last time I did give up, but you guys told me to add more foaming hand wash and keep kind of kneading it and making it more soft, and this worked so well. It became just like a slime. It was kind of like a clay slime, but it was super stretchy and really fun to play with, so thank you so much for making me retry this. First water slime recipe we're going to be trying is shampoo and water, and this shampoo is just a normal clear one. It's the organics coconut one just because I had it around the house, but this is actually super slimy just by itself. So the first thing I did was go in and make it pretty, so I added some colour and also some glitter, and I just stirred this all up until it became beautiful, and then I went in with my water, and this did change the consistency a lot. I was worried that this wouldn't pull away, but like you can see, it kind of starts forming in the middle already, which is so weird because it's literally shampoo which you use for washing your hair, so I was expecting it just to turn into bubbles. But it didn't. It started to clump up and it did become a lot thicker. To finish it off and kind of activate it, I guess, I then added some salt, and I've actually tried salt with this method before and it didn't work particularly well, but for some reason adding the water in really helped, and as you can see, this pretty much forms a slime. Like, this looks amazing. I've never seen a no glue, no borax method pull away just like a slime, so I was so impressed by this, and I decided to pour it out to see how it behaved, and it kind of felt like a slime in that it was super thick. It didn't hold together, and when you play with it, it still was very sticky, but you did get some clicking sounds. To try and get rid of some of the stickiness, I put it in the freezer, but this changed the consistency completely, so I really don't recommend doing this. It just kind of became like a big bogey. I'm going to be testing out some popular edible slime recipes, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So first up we have marshmallow slime, and I'm using some mini marshmallows from this. I think you can get it from any supermarket in the baking aisle, and then I just put it in the microwave for 10 seconds on the lowest heat setting. Once everything's mixed in, it'll be pretty sticky, so we're going to use some icing sugar, and I think you guys in America call it powdered sugar, just to make it lose some of the stick and pull everything together. And I found that it became super slimy at this stage, and I also couldn't really mix it around with the spatula anymore, so I waited for 10 minutes to make sure it was cool, and then once it was, I just went in with my hands and started mixing in the icing sugar this way, and as you can see, it's so stretchy and slime-like. The only bad thing about this method is that it stays so sticky and you can't really poke the slime because of this. The next slime we're going to be testing is golden syrup slime, and I really love this because it's so pretty when it's being poured out, and as you can see, it literally looks like golden liquid, and it's kind of like a thicker version of honey, I guess, and it smells so good, just like toffee. And I decided to add a tiny bit of powdered sugar because this is such a thick mixture that I didn't think it would need much, and I was so wrong. The first batch of sugar that I mixed in didn't actually make much of a difference, so I started to add loads and loads, and I think I actually added the whole box before it actually worked, and it kind of became like a dough, so I was really worried and I decided to go in with my hands. And obviously this one isn't hot, so you can go in with your hands at the start if you'd like to, but personally I thought that would be too sticky. And with the final bits of icing sugar, you don't want to add too much so that it becomes a dough. So what I like to do is just dip it in the icing sugar and play with it in my hands, and the heat of your hands will melt it a bit, so even if it is a bit too hard, it can be saved. And like you can see here, it literally turns into a butter slime. Last but not least, we have the method that I see literally everywhere, and it was probably the one that I was most apprehensive about because it has such a weird texture. So I started by pouring like 3 scoops of Nutella in the bowl, and because this is kind of like a liquid like the golden syrup, I thought this would need so much, and I was so wrong. As you can see here, it literally started crumbling from the start. It was like a really bad brownie mix, and I was just like, how do I save this? So I decided to add a whole other scoop of Nutella just to kind of like moisten it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week.